Dance with me like nobody's watching. Paralyzed white ballerina finds love in black physical therapist's arms. The wheelchair wasn't supposed to be permanent. At least that's what Riley Hayes kept telling herself every morning when she woke up in her penthouse apartment overlooking Seattle's waterfront. 3 months ago, she'd been principal dancer at Pacific Northwest Ballet. Now she was the girl people whispered about at Whole Foods, the one whose promising career ended on I-5 when a drunk driver ran a red light. Riley's morning started like every other since the accident. Her mother, Patricia, arrived at 8 sharp with green juice and unsolicited opinions. "Darling," Dr. Morrison called again. He says that clinic in Switzerland has an 80% success rate with spinal injuries. "Mom, we've been through this." Riley maneuvered her custom wheelchair toward the floor-to-ceiling windows. Seattle's skyline sparkled in the October rain. "Insurance won't cover experimental treatments." "We have money, Riley. Your father's practice." I said no. Riley's voice carried that sharp edge she'd perfected during her ballet days. Patricia Hayes flinched but recovered quickly, smoothing her Chanel blazer. Her best friend, Olivia Chen, video-called during lunch. Olivia's face filled the screen from her office at Amazon headquarters. "Riles, you cannot keep refusing physical therapy. It's been 3 months. I don't need some gym bro telling me to think positive while I do pointless exercises," Riley said, scrolling through Instagram posts from her former dance company. They were rehearsing Swan Lake. She'd been cast as Odette before the accident. "The new therapist starts Monday. Your mom already booked it." Riley's jaw tightened. "She what?" "Riley, come on. You're 23. You're acting like life is over." "My life was ballet, Liv. What am I supposed to do now? Teach beginners how to point their toes? Become one of those inspirational Instagram accounts?" Olivia's expression softened. "I'm just saying, you haven't even tried." After the call ended, Riley sat in silence. Her penthouse, paid for by her parents, decorated by her mother's interior designer, felt like a museum. Bar against the wall, framed performance photos, her point shoes displayed in a shadow box. Everything preserved like her dancing career was just temporarily on hold. Her phone buzzed. A text from her father. "Dinner tonight. Morton's. 7 p.m. We need to discuss your attitude." Riley laughed bitterly. Her attitude, as if being paralyzed from the waist down was a character flaw she needed to correct. She typed back, "Can't. Therapy appointment." It was a lie, but her father wouldn't know that until Monday. The afternoon stretched endlessly. Riley scrolled through news articles about herself from 3 months ago. Rising ballet star's career cut short. Promising dancer faces uncertain future. The comments section was worse. Half were sympathetic. The other half suggested she should be grateful to be alive, as if gratitude negated grief. She didn't notice the shadows lengthening across her apartment until her phone alarm reminded her to take evening medication. Another day survived. Another day of existing in this body that no longer obeyed her. Riley stared at her reflection in the darkened window. A stranger in expensive athleisure wear, sitting in a chair that cost more than most people's cars. Tomorrow she'd have to face that physical therapist. Tomorrow someone would try to fix what everyone kept insisting wasn't broken, just different. Riley wasn't sure which lie she hated more. CTA. "Hello, the Shade of Love family. So happy you're here. Before we jump into the next part of the story, tell us, where are you watching from? Drop your country and state in the comments. Also, how's the story been so far? We love reading your thoughts. Yes, every single comment. And it really keeps us motivated. Let's aim for 50 comments on this video. Think we can hit it? Your support means the world, so don't forget to comment, share, and keep the energy flowing. Sunday brunch at her parents' Medina estate was Riley's weekly reminder of how far she'd fallen from grace. Her father, Dr. Richard Hayes, orthopedic surgeon to Seattle's elite, carved smoked salmon with surgical precision, while her mother described the charity gala Riley would be missing. "The Johnsons asked about you," Patricia said, her tone suggesting this was somehow Riley's fault. "I told them you're focusing on recovery." Riley pushed arugula around her plate. Recovery. Such a sanitized word for what felt like existence in limbo. Her younger brother, Connor, scrolled through his phone between bites. At 19, he was everything Riley used to be, confident, ambitious, untouched by tragedy. There's this new PT place in Capitol Hill getting crazy reviews. Real results, not just the feel-good stuff. Capitol Hill? Her father's eyebrow raised. That's quite a neighborhood shift from Swedish Medical Center. Riley caught the implication. Capitol Hill meant diverse, artsy, less refined. Her father preferred the sterile comfort of institutions where everyone looked and spoke like him. The therapist Mom hired comes to the house, Riley said. Some guy named Marcus. Marcus what? Her father asked. Does it matter? Later, Riley sat in her childhood bedroom, preserved exactly as she'd left it at 18 when she moved into company housing. Dance trophies lined the shelves. Photos of her in costume covered the walls. Her mother had turned it into a shrine. She video called Olivia again. My family acts like this is temporary. Like I'm going to wake up and suddenly everything goes back to normal. Maybe they're just hopeful, Olivia offered. It's been 3 months, Liv. The doctors were clear. Partial paralysis. Permanent. Riley's voice cracked. But nobody wants to hear that. They want the miracle story. The comeback. They want me to be inspiration porn for their Facebook feeds. That's harsh. It's true. Riley wheeled to her window, overlooking Lake Washington. Sailboats dotted the water. People living normal lives. You know what the worst part is? I keep thinking if I'd just been more careful that night. If I'd taken a different route. If I'd left 5 minutes earlier or later. Riley, it wasn't your fault. I know that up here. Riley tapped her temple. But I keep thinking. I had everything. Principal dancer by 22. Critics called me luminous. Now I'm the girl in the wheelchair who makes people uncomfortable at parties. Olivia was quiet for a moment. The new therapist. Just give it a real try. Not the half-hearted thing you did at Swedish. After they hung up, Riley sat alone with her thoughts. The truth she couldn't say out loud was simpler and uglier than self-blame. She missed being special. Ballet had made her exceptional, elevated, worthy of attention and admiration. Now she was just another disabled person, reduced to a medical condition, defined by limitation rather than achievement. The therapist arriving tomorrow represented something she couldn't quite name yet. Either the first step toward acceptance, or another professional who'd eventually give up on her, like all the others. Riley wasn't sure which possibility scared her more. Either way, she'd perfected the art of polite distance. She'd smile, do the minimum, and wait for him to realize she was beyond helping. It's what she'd done with every medical professional since the accident. Monday morning arrived with Seattle's signature gray drizzle. Riley positioned herself by the window with her laptop open to emails she had no intention of answering. At 10 sharp, the doorbell rang. Patricia had let herself in earlier to prepare for the therapist's arrival, which meant she'd rearranged Riley's living room and laid out workout clothes like Riley was 5 years old. Remember, darling, first impressions matter. Dr. Morrison specifically recommended this young man. The therapist entered, and Riley's first thought was that he looked nothing like the middle-aged white men who'd treated her at Swedish Medical Center. Riley Hayes? He extended his hand. I'm Marcus Bennett. He was young, maybe 26, with dark skin, close-cropped hair, and the kind of athletic build that suggested he practiced what he preached. He wore navy scrubs and carried a professional-looking bag. But something about his easy confidence immediately irritated Riley. She shook his hand limply. My mother hired you. I should probably mention up front that I've been through 4 physical therapists already. I know. Marcus's smile didn't falter. I read your file. Patricia hovered near the kitchen. Marcus comes highly recommended from the East Side Rehabilitation Center. He's worked with several Paralympic athletes. I'm not an athlete anymore, Riley said flatly. Noted. Marcus set his bag down and pulled out a tablet. Mind if I ask you some questions? Riley gestured vaguely. Fire away. For the next 15 minutes, Marcus asked about her pain levels, range of motion, daily activities. Riley answered in monotone, making it clear through her body language that this was a waste of everyone's time. Her mother finally excused herself, though Riley knew she'd be listening from the kitchen. Okay, Marcus said, setting the tablet aside. Let's talk about goals. Goals? Riley laughed. I was a principal dancer. My goal was to perform at Lincoln Center. Unless you've got a miracle cure in that bag, I don't think we're working with the same definition of goals. Fair enough. Marcus didn't rise to the bait. What about smaller goals? Things you'd like to do independently? I can do everything independently. Can you transfer from your chair to your bed without assistance? Riley's jaw tightened. Sometimes. Can you navigate stairs if needed? Why would I need to? Fire emergency. Building elevators out. Any situation where your chair isn't accessible. Riley felt her mother's presence in the doorway but didn't turn around. I have people who help me. I'm sure you do. Marcus's tone remained neutral, which somehow made it worse. But having options isn't about need. It's about freedom. Freedom. Riley's laugh was sharp. That's rich. You have no idea what you're talking about. You're right. I don't know what it's like to lose something I'd worked my whole life for. Marcus started packing his tablet. But I do know what it's like to assume that because something's hard, it's not worth trying. Excuse me? Your file says you stopped coming to therapy after 2 weeks. Told the staff the exercises were pointless. Marcus looked at her directly. Were they pointless, or were they just difficult? Patricia cleared her throat from the kitchen. Riley felt her face flush with anger and something else. Embarrassment, maybe? Who was this guy to come into her home and make judgments? I think we're done for today, Riley said coldly. Agreed. Marcus handed her a business card. I'll be back Wednesday. Same time. We'll start with basic core strengthening and balance work. I didn't agree to Wednesday. Your mother did. She's paying my rate. Marcus headed for the door, then paused. For what it's worth, Ms. Hayes, I've worked with a lot of people who've lost a lot of things. The ones who get better aren't the ones who had it easiest before. They're the ones who decide being bitter takes more energy than healing. He left before Riley could respond. She sat in stunned silence, fury coursing through her. The audacity of this man, this complete stranger, to walk into her home and lecture her about bitterness. What did he know about her life? About what she'd lost? Patricia appeared with herbal tea Riley hadn't asked for. He seems very competent, doesn't he? Riley didn't answer. She was too busy planning exactly how she'd make Marcus Bennett regret ever taking her case. Wednesday came too quickly. Riley had considered canceling, but her mother had already paid for the month. Besides, she decided that the best revenge was to prove Marcus wrong by being the worst patient he'd ever encountered. He arrived exactly on time, infuriatingly cheerful despite Seattle's downpour. Morning? Ready to work? Thrilled, Riley deadpanned. Marcus didn't take the bait. Instead, he transformed her living room into a makeshift gym, laying out resistance bands, foam blocks, and a yoga mat. We're starting with core engagement. Most wheelchair users develop compensatory movement patterns that lead to chronic pain. We're going to reset that. Sounds fascinating. It's actually pretty boring but necessary. Marcus demonstrated the first exercise, a modified plank position using the couch for support. Your turn. Riley made a show of struggling with the transfer, though she was perfectly capable. Marcus watched without offering help, which annoyed her more than if he'd rushed to assist. You're holding back, he said after her third attempt. I'm paralyzed. Your upper body isn't. Neither is your core. You're choosing not to engage because you're testing me. Riley glared at him. Excuse me? You want to see if I'll give up like the others. Push you around. Make it easy. Let you quit. Marcus crossed his arms. I'm not going to do that. You don't know anything about me. I know you were one of the best dancers in the Pacific Northwest. I know that kind of excellence doesn't come from taking the easy path. Marcus knelt to her eye level. So stop insulting both of us by pretending you can't do a basic core hold. Something in Riley snapped. She transferred to the mat properly this time, positioned herself, and held the plank position. Her arms shook. Sweat beaded on her forehead, but she held it for 30 seconds before collapsing. There she is, Marcus said quietly. Riley hated that she felt a small surge of pride. She hated even more that he'd seen it on her face. They worked for 45 minutes. By the end, Riley's entire upper body burned with exertion she hadn't felt in months. It hurt, but it also felt like something, proof that she still existed inside this body she barely recognized. As Marcus packed up, he said casually, "There's an adaptive dance class at Capitol Hill Community Center, Thursdays at 6. Riley's defensive walls shot up immediately. I'm not interested in pity dancing. It's not pity dancing. It's actual technique. The instructor is a former Joffrey ballet dancer who had a stroke at 31. She's better in a chair than most people are on 2 legs. No thanks. Didn't think you would be." Marcus headed for the door. "See you Friday." After he left, Riley sat in the silence of her apartment. Her body ached in a way that felt almost good, like proof of effort, of pushing against limitations. She hated Marcus for making her feel it, hated him for seeing through her performance, hated him for not treating her like she was fragile. That evening, Olivia called. "How was therapy?" "He's the worst," Riley said. But even as she said it, she was pulling up the Capitol Hill Community Center website. The adaptive dance class listing included a photo of the instructor mid-spin, wheelchair tilted at an impossible angle, arms extended in perfect form. Riley closed the tab quickly. She wasn't ready for that. Wasn't ready to see what dance could look like when everything she'd known about it had been stripped away. Wasn't ready to admit that Marcus might be right. That the hardest part wasn't her body's limitations, but her mind's refusal to imagine a different kind of movement, a different kind of excellence. But she didn't delete her browser history, and when Friday's session approached, she didn't cancel. Small concessions she'd never admit meant anything. Friday's session was harder than Wednesday's, and Marcus showed no mercy. He had Riley doing resistance band work that left her shoulders screaming. But something had shifted between them. A grudging respect, maybe, or at least a temporary ceasefire in their unspoken war. "You're favoring your right side," Marcus noted. "Overcompensating creates imbalance." "Story of my life," Riley muttered. Deep. Marcus's tone was dry but not unkind. "Try again." Even pressure. Later, as he packed up, Riley surprised herself by asking, "How did you get into this? Physical therapy?" Marcus paused. "My younger sister. She had cerebral palsy. Spent most of my childhood watching therapists work with her. Some good, some terrible. The terrible ones treated her like a problem to solve. The good ones saw her as a person with goals." He zipped his bag. "She died when I was 16. Car accident." Riley felt something uncomfortable twist in her chest. "I'm sorry." "Me too." Marcus met her eyes. "That's why I don't do pity. And I don't do false hope. I do honest work with people who are ready to be honest about where they are." After he left, Riley couldn't stop thinking about his sister, about how casually he'd mentioned her death, as if he'd made peace with it. Riley hadn't made peace with anything. Not the accident, not her paralysis, not the future stretching out unrecognizable and terrifying. That night, she dreamed about dancing. In the dream, she was performing Swan Lake's Black Swan variation, 32 fouettés en tournant, the kind of technical virtuosity that separated good dancers from great ones. But halfway through, her legs stopped responding. She kept spinning anyway, using only her arms, and the audience didn't notice. They applauded like she'd completed the full sequence. She woke up crying. Sunday dinner at her parents' house was more of the same. Connor mentioned his girlfriend was applying to Juilliard. Patricia discussed upcoming social events Riley wouldn't attend. Her father barely looked up from his phone until dessert. "Your mother says therapy is going better," he said. "It's going. Marcus seems very professional," Patricia added, "though I do wish he'd dress a bit more formally." Riley's fork paused halfway to her mouth. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing, darling. Just that Dr. Morrison's therapists always wore proper clinical attire." The implication hung in the air. That Marcus's scrubs weren't professional enough. That something about him didn't meet her mother's standards. Riley suddenly remembered the way Patricia had emphasized Marcus's credentials that first day, as if she needed to justify hiring him. "He's the best therapist I've had," Riley said quietly. "The only one who doesn't treat me like I'm made of glass." Her father nodded approvingly. "Good. That's what you need. Someone who pushes you." But Riley wasn't thinking about being pushed. She was thinking about the micro-expression on her mother's face when Marcus had first arrived, that fleeting moment of surprise before her practiced courtesy took over. She was thinking about her father's comment about Capitol Hill neighborhoods. Small things she'd never questioned before, assumptions she'd absorbed without examining them. That night, Riley pulled up the adaptive dance class listing again. This time she didn't close it. She stared at the instructor's photo, a black woman with locks pulled back in a bun, mid-spin, radiating joy and power. Riley tried to imagine herself in that studio, surrounded by people in wheelchairs, learning to move in ways she'd never considered movement. The thought terrified her. But for the first time since the accident, terror felt different than despair. It felt like standing at the edge of something unknown that might, possibly, be worth the jump. She didn't register for the class. Not yet. But she saved the link. CTA. "Hello, the Shade of Love family. So happy you're here. Before we jump into the next part of the story, tell us, where are you watching from? Drop your country and state in the comments. Also, how's the story been so far? We love reading your thoughts. Yes, every single comment. And it really keeps us motivated. Let's aim for 50 comments on this video. Think we can hit it? Your support means the world. So don't forget to comment, share, and keep the energy flowing. The following Monday, Riley arrived early for her appointment at a coffee shop near her building. She'd started venturing out more, partly because Marcus had challenged her to practice navigating public spaces, partly because her penthouse felt like a cage. She was struggling with the accessible door button when she heard a familiar voice. "Mrs. Patterson, let me help you with that." Riley turned to see Marcus assisting an elderly black woman with her walker. He held the door, carried her coffee to a table, and spent several minutes talking with her about her grandson's basketball game. "Marcus spoils me," Mrs. Patterson said, patting his hand. "Comes by my building every Monday before his appointments. Says he's checking in, but I know he's making sure I ate breakfast." "It's on my way," Marcus said, but his smile was genuine. Riley watched this interaction from her corner table, feeling like she was seeing Marcus for the first time, not as her therapist who pushed her too hard, but as someone who moved through the world with a kind of easy generosity she'd never quite managed. When Mrs. Patterson left, Marcus noticed Riley and headed over. "Didn't expect to see you here. Practicing accessibility navigation," Riley said. "Per your instructions." "Good." He slid into the chair across from her. "Mrs. Patterson lives in my building. She raised 6 kids solo, worked 2 jobs most of her life. Now her knees are shot and her kids are too busy to call." He sipped his coffee. "She reminds me of my mom." "Does your mom live in Seattle?" "Tacoma. She's a nurse at St. Joseph. Works night shifts mostly." Marcus's expression softened. "She put herself through nursing school while raising me and my sister. I was 12 when I realized other kids' moms didn't fall asleep standing up." Riley felt something shift inside her chest. She'd spent so much energy resenting Marcus's direct approach that she'd never considered his life beyond their sessions. That must have been hard. It was necessary. That's different. Marcus met her eyes. "My mom taught me that hard and impossible aren't the same thing. Hard just means you have to show up even when you don't want to." They sat in companionable silence for a moment. Outside, Seattle's rain had shifted to mist. People hurried past with expensive raincoats and designer coffee cups, the kind of casual wealth Riley had grown up swimming in without noticing. "Can I ask you something?" Riley said. "Why'd you take my case?" "My mom must have told you I've been through 4 therapists. 5, actually. You forgot the one who lasted 3 days. Marcus grinned. "I took it because Dr. Morrison specifically said you needed someone who wouldn't quit on you, and because I was curious about the girl who'd rather fail than try. I wasn't—" Riley started, then stopped. "Okay, maybe I was." "You definitely were." Marcus's tone wasn't judgmental. "But you're here now, drinking terrible coffee shop coffee and practicing accessibility navigation. That's something." A young woman approached their table, early 20s, wearing a Peninsula College hoodie. "Excuse me, are you Marcus Bennett?" Marcus looked surprised. "Yeah? You probably don't remember me. Angela Rodriguez? You did PT with me at Eastside Rehab 2 years ago, after my diving accident." "Angela, of course I remember. How are you?" "I'm back in school. Physical therapy program, actually. Because of you." Angela's smile was radiant. "You told me I could either spend my life being angry about what happened, or I could use it. So I'm using it." They talked for a few more minutes. After Angela left, Riley said quietly, "Does that happen a lot? Former patients thanking you?" "Sometimes." Marcus checked his watch. "We should head to your place. Unless you want to do the session here." "Here?" Riley looked around the crowded coffee shop. "Why not? Real-world practice. Navigating spaces that aren't designed perfectly for accessibility." Marcus stood. "Come on. Let's see how you handle cafe tables and entitled customers who don't want to move their bags." Riley found herself laughing, actually laughing, as Marcus turned her therapy session into an obstacle course through downtown Seattle. They practiced navigating narrow aisles, managing doors while holding coffee, advocating for space when people blocked accessible routes. By the time they finished, Riley was exhausted but energized, and she was seeing Marcus differently, not as her adversary, but as someone who'd chosen a profession that required daily optimism in the face of others' pain, someone who showed up for elderly neighbors and former patients and difficult clients who tested his patience at every turn, someone who made hard look a lot like hope. Riley's growing comfort with Marcus didn't go unnoticed. At Wednesday's session, Patricia lingered longer than usual, watching them work with an expression Riley couldn't quite read. After Marcus left, her mother sat down with tea neither of them wanted. "Darling, I'm glad you're making progress, but I've been thinking, perhaps we should supplement with Dr. Morrison's team at Swedish. Marcus is competent, but what?" Patricia's pause was telling. "He lacks the clinical background of someone from a major medical center. I'm just concerned about the quality of care. Marcus has a doctorate in physical therapy from UW. He's worked with Paralympic athletes. What exactly is your concern, Mom?" "I'm simply saying that someone from our usual circles. Riley felt anger rising. "You mean someone white?" "Riley, that's not what I—" "Isn't it?" Riley wheeled closer. "You've questioned his professionalism since day one, the way he dresses, where he's from. Meanwhile, he's the only therapist who's actually helped me." Patricia's face flushed. "I will not be accused of prejudice in my own daughter's home. I'm looking out for your best interests." After her mother left, Riley called Olivia. "Am I crazy, or is my mom being racist?" "About Marcus?" Olivia sighed. "Riles, your mom does that thing where she never says anything explicitly wrong, but the implications are pretty clear. I never noticed before." "Yeah, well, you've never had reason to notice." That night, Riley couldn't sleep. She kept replaying moments from her childhood, her father's comments about certain neighborhoods being unsafe, her mother's surprise when Connor dated a black girl in high school, the way her parents praised articulate black colleagues at medical conferences, as if articulation was unexpected. Friday's session felt different. Riley was hyper-aware of everything, the way she spoke to Marcus, the assumptions she might be making without realizing. It made her clumsy and distracted. "You okay?" Marcus asked, after she failed a simple balance exercise 3 times. "My mom wants to replace you with Swedish medical center therapists." Marcus's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes dimmed. "I see. I told her no. I told her you're the best therapist I've had." Riley met his gaze. But she kept pushing, and the things she was saying, the way she was saying them— "Riley, it's fine. I'm used to it. You shouldn't have to be used to it." The words came out fiercer than she intended. "You shouldn't have to be twice as good to be considered half as competent." "No, I shouldn't. But that's reality." Marcus started packing up his equipment earlier than usual. "Look, if your family's uncomfortable with me, I can refer you to someone else. I'm not here to cause family drama." "You're not causing anything." "They are." Riley felt panic rising. "Please don't quit. I need you to keep pushing me." Marcus studied her face for a long moment. "Okay, but Riley, this isn't just about your mom. It's about the world you grew up in, the assumptions you absorbed without realizing. You're going to have to examine that stuff. It's going to be uncomfortable." "I know." "Do you?" Marcus's voice was gentle but firm. "Because right now, you're outraged on my behalf. That's easy. The hard part comes when you realize how you've participated in systems that make people like me prove ourselves over and over again." After he left, Riley sat with his words. She thought about ballet, its overwhelming whiteness, the way black dancers were often told their bodies were wrong for classical technique. She thought about the way she'd never questioned who got principal roles, who got scholarships, whose talent was nurtured versus whose was overlooked. She'd spent 3 months grieving the loss of dance. She'd never once examined what dance itself had lost by being so narrow, so exclusive, so white. The realization made her feel sick, not because it was new information, somewhere she'd always known, but because she'd never cared enough to think about it deeply. Until now, until Marcus made it impossible not to see. The following Monday, Riley did something she'd been avoiding for weeks. She went to the Capitol Hill Community Center for the adaptive dance class. She arrived early, heart-pounding, half hoping the class would be canceled. Instead, she found a studio full of wheelchairs, walkers, prosthetics, and the instructor, Simone Crawford, the former Joffrey ballet dancer Marcus had mentioned. Simone rolled over with a smile that could light up the entire room. "You must be Riley. Marcus said you might show up." "He did. He's been talking about you for weeks. Says you're the most stubborn person he's ever met, which coming from Marcus is saying something." Simone gestured to the studio. "Want to try class, or do you want to watch first?" Riley watched. For 90 minutes, she watched people in wheelchairs execute choreography that defied everything she thought she knew about dance. Spins that used momentum differently, lifts that partnered chair users with standing dancers, extensions that celebrated what bodies could do rather than mourning what they couldn't. After class, Marcus appeared in the doorway. Riley hadn't known he'd be there. "You came," he said simply. "You knew I would?" "Hoped. There's a difference." Marcus sat on the floor beside her chair. "What did you think?" Riley's throat tightened. "I think I've been grieving the wrong thing." They sat in the empty studio, while Riley tried to articulate thoughts she'd barely formed. Around them, the afternoon light slanted through high windows, casting shadows across the wooden floor. "When I lost the ability to walk," Riley said slowly, "I thought I lost dance. But watching today, dance didn't leave. I left dance, because I couldn't imagine it looking different than what I'd always known." Marcus nodded, but didn't interrupt. "And I think I did that with other things, too. With people." Riley looked at him directly. "I grew up in a bubble where everyone looked like me, thought like me. I never questioned why the ballet company had 3 black dancers out of 70. I never thought about why my parents' friends were all white. I just accepted it as normal. And now I'm realizing normal isn't neutral. It's a choice." Riley's hands trembled slightly. "Can I ask you something? And will you be honest, even if it's uncomfortable?" "Always." "Do you think I'm racist?" Marcus didn't answer immediately. When he did, his voice was measured. "I think you grew up in systems designed to keep people like you comfortable, and people like me proving our worth. I think you've absorbed messages about whose excellence matters and whose doesn't. That's not about individual hatred. It's about advantage you didn't ask for but benefit from anyway. So yes. So it's complicated. The question isn't whether you've been shaped by racism. Everyone has been. The question is what you do when you start seeing it." Riley wiped her eyes. "I don't know what to do. You're doing it. You showed up here. You're asking questions. You're feeling uncomfortable." Marcus's smile was small but genuine. Most people avoid discomfort. They get defensive, change the subject, protect their self-image. You're sitting with it. It feels awful. Growth usually does. Marcus stood and extended his hand to help Riley with her coat. "But you know what feels worse? Being 23 and believing your life ended because you can't do one specific thing anymore. You're more than ballet, Riley. You always were." The words cracked something open in Riley's chest. Not belief. She wasn't ready for belief, but possibility. The faint outline of a life that looked nothing like what she'd planned but might be worth living anyway. "Same time Wednesday?" Marcus asked. "Actually," Riley said, surprising herself, "can we add Fridays? And can we do some sessions here, at the community center? I want to learn how to move again. Really move." Marcus's smile was worth the fear churning in her stomach. "Yeah, we can do that." 3 weeks later, Riley had established a new routine. Therapy with Marcus 3 times a week, adaptive dance class on Thursdays, coffee with Simone on Tuesdays. Her parents noticed the change and didn't like it. The confrontation came on a Sunday evening. Riley arrived at dinner to find not just her family, but Dr. Morrison, her father's colleague, and the one who'd originally recommended Marcus. "Riley," her father began as soon as dessert was served, "we need to discuss your therapy situation." Riley's stomach dropped. "What about it?" "Dr. Morrison has concerns about the direction of your treatment." Dr. Morrison cleared his throat. "Your mother mentioned you've been spending significant time at a community center in Capitol Hill. While community programs have their place, I'm concerned about the quality of therapeutic oversight." "Marcus is overseeing everything," Riley said tightly. "Marcus is a fine entry-level therapist," Dr. Morrison continued, "but for someone with your resources and potential, we really should be looking at comprehensive programs. Swedish has a new adaptive sports program that—" "I don't want Swedish's program." Patricia set down her wine glass with a sharp clink. "Riley, we're trying to help you." "Are you? Or are you trying to keep me away from Capitol Hill and Marcus and people who don't fit your idea of appropriate?" Her father's face reddened. "That's enough. You've never what? Never made assumptions about people based on where they live or what they look like?" Riley's voice rose. "Because I'm starting to see it everywhere, Dad. Every concern about Marcus. Every comment about neighborhoods. Every surprised reaction when someone black or brown is excellent at their job." Connor stared at his plate. Her mother looked stricken. Dr. Morrison looked uncomfortable. "You're being ridiculous," her father said coldly. "We're talking about quality of care, not race? Then why has every therapist you approved been white? Why is Capitol Hill suddenly questionable when you had no problem with me living in Pioneer Square for company housing?" The table fell silent. Riley's heart hammered, but she didn't back down. "Marcus Bennett has done more for me in 2 months than 4 therapists did in 6, Riley continued. "He's pushed me harder, believed in me more, and treated me like a person instead of a problem. And yes, he's black. And yes, he's from Tacoma, not Medina. And yes, he works at a community center instead of a country club rehabilitation facility. None of that makes him less qualified. It just makes you uncomfortable." Patricia's eyes filled with tears. "How dare you accuse us of—" "I'm not accusing you of being the KKK, Mom. I'm saying you've spent your whole life in spaces where everyone looks like us and thinks like us, and now you're acting like that's the only legitimate way to exist." Riley grabbed her bag. "I'm done with dinner, and I'm done pretending your concerns about my therapy are anything other than what they are." She left before anyone could respond. Her hands shook so badly she could barely operate her wheelchair controls, but she didn't stop until she was in her car, calling Marcus. "Riley, it's 9 p.m. Everything okay? I just blew up my family dinner defending you, and I don't know if I did the right thing, and I'm sitting in my parents' driveway having a panic attack. Okay, breathe with me. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4. Riley followed his breathing pattern until her heart rate slowed. "You still there?" Marcus asked gently. "Yeah. What happened?" Riley explained everything. When she finished, Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "Riley, I appreciate you standing up for me. I do. But I need you to understand something. I don't need you to be my white savior. I need you to examine your own biases and do the work of unlearning the stuff your parents taught you. Not for me, for yourself. I know. I think that's what tonight was about. Finally seeing clearly and not being able to unsee it." Riley wiped her eyes. "Is it supposed to feel this awful?" "Yeah, it is. But you know what? You did something most people never do. You chose truth over comfort. That takes courage." Riley drove home through Seattle's rain-slicked streets, feeling simultaneously proud and terrified. She'd crossed a line with her family she couldn't uncross. But she'd also defended something that mattered, not just Marcus, but the principle of seeing people clearly, of questioning inherited assumptions, of building a life based on values she'd examined instead of ones she'd absorbed by default. Her phone buzzed with texts from her mother. Riley turned it off. Tonight, she needed silence and the strange, uncomfortable feeling of standing on her own. Riley didn't speak to her parents for 2 weeks. Connor texted occasionally, neutral updates that didn't take sides. Olivia video called to say she was proud of her. But mostly, Riley focused on therapy and dance, and building something that felt authentic. She'd started choreographing, small movements at first, exploring what her body could do from a seated position. Simone encouraged her, helped her understand momentum and balance, and the physics of wheelchair dance. Marcus incorporated her ideas into therapy, strengthening the muscles she'd need for more complex choreography. "You're thinking like a dancer again," Marcus noted during a Friday session at the community center. "Not like a former dancer, like a current one. It feels different," Riley admitted. "Not less than before, just different." They were working on transfers when Riley's phone rang. Her father's name appeared on the screen. She stared at it until Marcus raised an eyebrow. "You going to answer that?" Riley did. "Hello? Riley, I think we should talk." Her father's voice was careful, formal. "Can you come to dinner tomorrow? Just you, your mother, and me. No Dr. Morrison." "I don't know if I'm ready." "Please. We owe you an apology." Riley agreed, more from shock than anything else. After hanging up, she looked at Marcus. "My dad just apologized. I don't think I've ever heard him apologize." "That's good. That's growth." Marcus handed her a water bottle. "What are you going to say to them?" "I have no idea." Saturday's dinner was awkward. Patricia had cooked, actually cooked, not catered, which was its own signal. They sat in the formal dining room where every Hayes family conflict had eventually been smoothed over and forgotten. But Riley didn't want smooth. She wanted honest. "Before you say anything," she began, "I need you to understand something. I'm not angry because you questioned Marcus's qualifications. I'm angry because you questioned them for reasons you won't examine. And I spent 23 years doing the same thing." Her father nodded slowly. After you left that night, your mother and I talked for hours. Really talked, maybe for the first time, about certain assumptions we've made. We're not bad people, Patricia added quickly. I didn't say you were bad. I said you were comfortable, and comfort can make you blind. Riley took a breath. I was blind too. I never questioned why ballet companies were so white. I never wondered why all my therapists at Swedish looked like me. I just accepted it as how things were. Her father leaned forward. What changed? Marcus changed me. Not by lecturing me, but by being so completely himself that I couldn't ignore my assumptions anymore. And dance changed me. Seeing people in wheelchairs move with more freedom than I ever had on two legs. Riley's voice softened. I lost ballet, but I found something bigger. I found the courage to question everything I thought I knew. Patricia reached across the table, hesitant. Riley took her hand. We want to do better, her mother said. We don't know how, exactly, but we want to try. Start by listening, by sitting with discomfort instead of defending yourselves, by recognizing that good intentions don't erase impact. Riley squeezed her mother's hand. And maybe by coming to one of my adaptive dance performances. We're doing a showcase next month. Performances? Her father looked startled. You're performing again? Yeah. A piece Simone and I choreographed together. It's called Unlearning Gravity. Riley smiled. Marcus suggested the title. He said I spent my whole life trying to defy gravity, and now I'm learning to work with it instead. The dinner ended with cautious hugs and promises to talk more. It wasn't perfect reconciliation, but it was honest. More honest than Riley's family had been in years. As she drove home, Riley felt something unfamiliar settle in her chest. Not happiness exactly, more like peace. The kind that comes from choosing integrity over approval, from building relationships based on truth rather than maintaining them based on pretense. She texted Marcus, "Family dinner went okay. Thank you for teaching me how to be uncomfortable." His response came immediately. You taught yourself. I just held up a mirror. CTA. Hello, the Shade of Love family. So happy you're here. Before we jump into the next part of the story, tell us, where are you watching from? Drop your country and state in the comments. Also, how's the story been so far? We love reading your thoughts. Yes, every single comment. And it really keeps us motivated. Let's aim for 50 comments on this video. Think we can hit it? Your support means the world, so don't forget to comment, share, and keep the energy flowing. The Adaptive Dance Showcase was scheduled for a Friday evening at the Capitol Hill Community Center. Riley had invited everyone, her parents, Olivia, even some former ballet company members. She wasn't sure who would actually show up. The week before the performance, she got a call from Seattle Arts Magazine. They wanted to do a feature on her comeback story. During the interview, the journalist asked, "What's it like returning to dance after such a devastating injury?" Riley paused, choosing her words carefully. "I didn't return to dance. I discovered it for the first time. Can you elaborate? Classical ballet is beautiful, but it's also incredibly restrictive. Certain bodies, certain movements, certain aesthetics are considered legitimate. Everything else is dismissed." Riley met the journalist's eyes. Being in a wheelchair forced me to question those restrictions. And once I started questioning dance, I started questioning everything else. The assumptions I'd made about excellence, about whose stories matter, about what bodies are allowed to be celebrated. The journalist scribbled notes. That's quite philosophical. It's quite necessary. Riley leaned forward. I spent my whole life in spaces designed for people who looked like me. I never had to think about accessibility, or inclusion, or how systems are built to serve some people while excluding others. Losing the ability to walk gave me the ability to finally see. The article ran 3 days before the showcase. Riley's phone exploded with messages, some supportive, some calling her woke and ungrateful, some from former ballet colleagues who seemed personally offended by her critique of the industry. Olivia called, laughing. "Girl, you really said that? About ballet being restrictive? I meant it. I know you did. That's what makes it beautiful." Olivia's voice softened. "You're not the same person you were before the accident." "No, I'm not." Riley looked at her reflection in the window. "I'm not sure I like who I was before." The night of the showcase, Riley arrived early to find Marcus helping set up chairs. He'd brought his mother, a small woman with kind eyes and nurse's scrubs under her coat. "Riley, this is my mom, Diane." "Your son is an excellent therapist," Riley said, shaking Diane's hand. "My son is an excellent human who happens to do therapy." Diane's smile was warm. "He talks about you constantly. Says you're the most stubborn woman he's ever met. He's not wrong." Riley's parents arrived 20 minutes before showtime, looking uncomfortable but present. Connor came with his girlfriend. Olivia showed up with a bouquet of flowers. Even a few former ballet company members appeared in the back rows. The showcase began with Simone's solo, a stunning piece that reimagined classical ballet vocabulary through wheelchair movement. Then came a group number featuring dancers with various disabilities, followed by a duet between a standing dancer and a chair user that made the audience gasp. Riley's piece was last. Unlearning Gravity was 5 minutes of choreography that told the story of her transformation, from rigid classical lines to fluid, grounded movements that celebrated weight and momentum instead of fighting them. Marcus had helped her build the strength for spinning turns that used her chair's pivot point. Simone had taught her to trust falling and recovery. As Riley moved through the final sequence, she caught Marcus's eye in the audience. He was grinning, proud and present. Her mother was crying. Her father looked stunned, like he was seeing his daughter for the first time. When the music ended and the audience erupted in applause, Riley sat in the spotlight and felt something she hadn't felt in months. Not the old pride of technical perfection, but something deeper, the satisfaction of showing up fully as herself, transformed and transforming, still becoming. 3 months after the showcase, Riley sat in a coffee shop in Capitol Hill, laptop open, working on her application to UW's Arts Administration program. She'd decided to pivot from performing to creating opportunities for other dancers, particularly those whose bodies didn't fit traditional ballet standards. Marcus slid into the chair across from her, 2 coffees in hand. "Thought you might need fuel." "You're the best." Riley accepted the cup gratefully. They'd developed this rhythm over the past months. Meeting for coffee, talking about everything and nothing, building a friendship that felt both easy and profound. "How's the application going?" "Good. Scary. I'm writing about accessibility in arts institutions and how most of them fail spectacularly at inclusion." Riley grinned. "Turns out being angry about systems makes for compelling personal statements. Anger, channeled into action. That's growth." Marcus sipped his coffee. "My mom wants to know if you're coming to Sunday dinner again." Riley had become a regular at the Bennett family dinners, loud, chaotic gatherings where Diane fed everyone too much food, and Marcus's aunts told embarrassing stories. It was nothing like the formal Hayes family meals, and Riley loved it. "Wouldn't miss it. Should I bring anything?" "Just yourself." Marcus's expression turned serious. "Can I tell you something?" "Always. When I first took your case, I almost said no. I'd dealt with too many wealthy clients who saw me as the help, who questioned my credentials, who made it clear they were doing me a favor by letting me work with them." He met her eyes. "But Dr. Morrison said you needed someone who wouldn't quit on you, so I showed up prepared to be disappointed." "And was you? Disappointed?" "The opposite. You were angry and defensive and so determined to protect yourself that you pushed everyone away." Marcus smiled. "But underneath all that, you were brave enough to question everything you'd been taught. Most people never do that." Riley felt tears prick her eyes. "I questioned it because you made it impossible not to." "No. I just held up a mirror. You did the work of looking." They sat in comfortable silence, watching Capitol Hill's diverse crowd flow past the window. Young and old, every ethnicity, every kind of body. The kind of neighborhood Riley's parents had once called questionable, and she now called home. "I'm moving," Riley said suddenly. "Out of the penthouse. I found a place in Capitol Hill, ground floor, fully accessible near the community center." Marcus raised his eyebrows. "Big step. Biggest one yet. My parents are freaking out, obviously, but Connor said he'd help me move, and Olivia's already planning a housewarming party." Riley closed her laptop. "I spent 23 years building a life that looked perfect from the outside. Now I'm building one that feels right from the inside. That's the hardest kind of dance," Marcus said quietly. "Moving to your own rhythm instead of someone else's choreography." Riley thought about the girl she'd been 6 months ago. Bitter, isolated, convinced her life had ended because she couldn't perform ballet anymore. That girl seemed like a stranger now. This Riley, the one who questioned and challenged and built community instead of maintaining image, felt more real than any version of herself that had come before. She still had hard days. Days when her body didn't cooperate, when the phantom sensation of dancing on point haunted her dreams, when the loss felt overwhelming. But those days were punctuated by moments of genuine joy, choreographing with Simone, laughing at Diane's dinner table, challenging her parents to think differently, advocating for accessibility in spaces that had never considered it. "You know what's wild?" Riley said. "I thought the accident took everything from me, but it actually gave me the chance to become someone I actually respect." Marcus lifted his coffee cup in a toast. "To unlearning gravity." Riley clinked her cup against his. "To unlearning gravity." Outside, Seattle's spring rain turned to sunshine, casting light through the coffee shop windows. Riley watched the way the light caught on puddles, creating temporary rainbows on the sidewalk. Temporary but beautiful, fragile but real, like healing, like transformation, like learning to dance with the body you have instead of mourning the body you lost, like finding love for yourself, for community, for a life that looked nothing like what you planned but turned out to be exactly what you needed. Riley opened her laptop again, fingers hovering over the keyboard. She had an application to finish, a life to build, a future to create. And for the first time since the accident, she was excited to see where the next chapter would take her. Not back to who she was, forward to who she was becoming.